Hey, look who I have.
Hey, it's the other book dragon.
This is CJ.
Nice to see you all.
Today is your first review. Well, at least video.
First review video for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So what book are we talking about today?
All right. Today we are talking about The Call by... We can't say this name. Heaven forbid if he watches or she, we're sorry for butchering your name. So...
I'm going to let him take the reins on this one.
Oh boy. So with this book, I give it roughly a 4.
I think I would give it like a 4 or 4.25.
Okay. Namely because as far as one of the aspects that this story talks about, it's actually very historically accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate historical accuracy.
If you're going to include it.
If you're going to include it. Even if it's fictional historical accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so this revolves around essentially Ireland. And it is essentially what I would consider post-apocalyptic Ireland. Not in the way that you would think post-apocalypse in the general sense of like, in the case of like, say Hunger Games. It is post-apocalyptic in the sense that you have the fair folk, the fairies, or as they are called in the book, the Sidhe. S-I-D-H-E.
I was saying Sid. I don't know.
I think it can be pronounced both ways.
Mm.
I've heard it pronounced both ways. But Sidhe was what was going through my head when I read it.
See, this is what happens when different languages pop in. You can't pronounce it.
Exactly.
Crap.
So, the premise of this story, if you would like to hold, because you know I talk with my hands.
Yes.
So the premise of this story is that thousands and thousands of years ago, the humans and the Sidhe made a pact. Essentially saying that the Sidhe were going to an alternate dimension, if you will. And what has happened is the Sidhe have said, you know what, we're done with this, we're coming back.
I think it's also the fact that the contract technically has run out, in a way.
I think that was mentioned. I know a new contract was... Well, spoilers. So what starts happening? We're not spoilers.
No.
So essentially what happens is from the time that you basically hit puberty to
like the age of 18.
Like age of 18 or 19 thereabouts, you are essentially a target. And what happens to you is you completely disappear. You are called. And what that entails is your body disappears, your clothes stay behind. And you are taken to the Greyland, as it is called.
All the poor naked teenagers.
All the poor naked teenagers. We get into that later. So, in our world, it lasts 3 minutes and 4 seconds. For the person who is called, who is taken to the Greyland, it is essentially a day. Now, imagine this. We see everything in color, if we're not colorblind. Sorry, people. Or blind. In the Greyland, there is no color whatsoever, except in patches known as windows, where it reflects the past. And the Sidhe, normally being happy, cheerful people, happy to be on the hunt, will get to these windows and cry because it reminds them of a time and a place that they will never get to see again unless things can happen. So your entire goal when you are called, as I bounce around, the entire premise of when you are called is to live and to not get touched by the Sidhe. Something as simple as this would completely morph that appendage into something monstrous. So imagine being touched all over and coming back into a monster.
Well, you either die in the Greyland, you come back okay, though mentally scarred, or you come back somehow morphed because they've had pity on you. Weird form of pity.
Well, and in some cases, their form of pity is turning you into a creature that, when sent back, will, in fact, you have no mental...
You're not there.
You're not there. You are essentially replaced with whatever the Sidhe want you to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have the main character, Nessa. She, as well as three other characters out of the primaries, are at this survival college. And their entire goal is to learn how to survive against the Sidhe. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
Well, the big thing with the survival college is you're there to learn, but even while you're there, you can be called. So,
yes.
Free reign, whenever the heck the Sidhe want you, they want Sid, whatever. Whenever they want you, they can have you, essentially, is the easiest way to put it.
Exactly.
Now, there is something interesting about Nessa.
Nessa is essentially crippled. There was a deformity with her legs, and so when she goes on excursions, or hunts, as they're called in this, she makes crutches, and she gets around really well. Mm-hmm. But it earned her the nickname Clip Clop.
Yep. By
the main antagonist, other than the Sidhe, Connor.
Oh, I don't like Connor.
He's not a good man.
No, he's more like a child.
He gets what he deserves. Once again, no spoilers.
Well, the big thing with Connor is he thinks he's the head honcho of the school, and he likes Nessa, though, you know, he leads this group of people that always make fun of her, and it gets interesting towards the end what actually happens with him and how Nessa's able to stop him after his time in the Greyland, which you'll have to read to find out.
Yes, because we don't believe in spoilers here.
Nope.
If you want to know, you got to read it yourself.
Yes.
So, that's giving like a very base outline of the story, I think, without giving too many spoilers. You've got the idea. Mm-hmm. I liked the story, like I said, because it was, as far as the way that the Sidhe were portrayed, they were portrayed historically accurate. Yes, we know that, generally speaking, they don't exist. But as far as the way that they have been talked about in previous stories in the past, think of stories like that deal with Avalon. They are portrayed relatively historically accurate to those stories, which I appreciate. As I said, I like the way the story flows. It doesn't bounce between characters very often. Occasionally it does. Mm-hmm. But you find out really quickly which one they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else I can say about this. Really, you guys need to give this book a read. If you want to read something that's post-apocalyptic but different, give this one a read for sure.
Yep. Good book. So, if you guys like the channel, subscribe down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye!